NFL players make millions on the field, but some lose it all.
Life after football led to bankruptcy and almost drove him to murder.
From Vince Young, who blew $35 million on shopping sprees, private flights, and shady deals, to Clinton Portis, who trusted the wrong friends and lost over $10 million. These are the NFL players who went broke almost overnight. Vince Young. Vince Young was once one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the NFL, a national champion at Texas, a top draft pick, and the future of the Tennessee Titans. But just a few years later, the man who made over $35 million was completely broke, and his downfall was just as wild as his career. Young had a serious spending problem. He reportedly spent $5,000 a week at the Cheesecake Factory, once dropped $15,000 on a single meal, and even bought out every seat on a Southwest Airlines flight because he wanted privacy. When it came to money, Vince Young lived like it would never run out, but the real damage came from the people around him. He trusted his finances to an advisor and his uncle, who he also hired as his manager. That trust ended in disaster. After filing for bankruptcy, Young discovered forged signatures, mystery investments, and business deals he never approved, including one payment of $600,000 to a company he didn't even know existed. By 2014, Young was forced to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing up to $10 million in debt. It was a stunning fall for a man once considered the NFL's next superstar. After football, he tried to rebuild, working with the University of Texas, doing broadcasting, and opening the Vince Young Steakhouse. Up next, we have an NFL player who went broke overnight. Clinton Portis. Clinton Portis was one of the NFL's most electrifying running backs, a star for the Broncos and Redskins who made over $40 million in his career. But after years of bad investments, lavish spending, and being scammed by crooked financial advisors, he lost almost everything. At his peak, Portis was unstoppable, a record-breaking athlete with houses, cars, and cash to match. But behind the scenes, his money was disappearing fast. He trusted two financial advisors as well as friends, Janesh Brahmbhatt and Jeff Rubin, who convinced him to pour millions into shady deals, including a fraudulent casino investment and a Ponzi-style scheme. By the time Portis found out, over $10 million was gone, stolen through fake signatures and unauthorized withdrawals. His spending didn't help either. He bought multiple homes, threw massive parties, handed out credit cards to friends, and covered bills for strangers. When it all came crashing down, he owed money to the IRS, casinos, 4 women in domestic support, and even to his own mother, nearly $500,000, because one of his advisors took out a loan against her house without telling him. At one point, Portis admitted he was so angry he considered murdering the people who stole from him. The only thing that stopped him was thinking about his 4 sons. In 2015, he finally filed for bankruptcy, listing just $150 in his bank account. Today, Portis works as a coach and mentor, openly sharing his story. On the other hand, this next NFL player owed so much money that he went broke instantly. Bernie Kosar. Bernie Kosar was one of the smartest quarterbacks of his era, a local hero who led the Miami Hurricanes to a national championship and turned the Cleveland Browns into contenders. But years after retirement, the same man who once read defenses like a genius couldn't read the fine print on his own finances. By 2009, Kosar was millions in debt and forced to file for bankruptcy. Court documents showed he had between $1 million and $10 million in assets, but over $50 million in liabilities. He owed $3 million to his ex-wife, $1.5 million to the Cleveland Browns, and another $9 million tied up in bad real estate investments. His restaurant chain had already shut down, his marriage had collapsed, and creditors were lining up to collect. He first filed for Chapter 11 reorganization, hoping to fix things, but his situation was beyond repair. It was later converted to Chapter 7 liquidation, meaning his assets were sold off just to pay what he could. And while his financial life was falling apart, so was his body. Years of hits left him with fused spinal discs, broken fingers, 2 busted wrists, and a hip that needed replacement. In one interview, Kosar walked through his mansion, barefoot, limping, coughing, his teeth in a plastic cup, showing the toll football had taken on him. Moving on, we have an NFL player who got into debt and ended up in jail. But what happened next shocked everyone. Michael Vick. Michael Vick was supposed to be a generational talent, the first overall pick, the fastest quarterback alive, and one of the highest-paid players in NFL history. But his story took one of the darkest turns the league has ever seen. In 2007, Vick's $130 million contract with the Atlanta Falcons vanished overnight when authorities discovered his role in an illegal dogfighting ring. He pleaded guilty, spent 21 months in federal prison, and lost everything: his salary, his endorsements, and his reputation. While behind bars, Vick filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing $17.6 million in debt. His money was gone, some stolen by shady advisors, some wasted on bad investments, and some tied up in lawsuits from failed business deals. By the time he got out, his empire was gone. But instead of hiding, Vick did something no one expected. He went back to work. Signing with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2009, he clawed his way back into the league, earning nearly $57 million over the next 5 years. He lived on a strict budget and funneled nearly all of it toward repaying what he owed. By 2017, Vick had paid back $17.4 million, 99% of his total debt. Even his bankruptcy trustee called it remarkable, something that happens in 1 out of 100 cases. Vick later said, "I didn't want to stiff people who never stiffed me." Next up, we have an NFL player who went bankrupt mostly because of women, but also due to other failed business ventures. Warren Sapp earned an estimated $40 million over 13 NFL seasons, won a Super Bowl, made 7 Pro Bowls, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2013. But by April 2012, the Hall of Famer filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing $6.7 million in debt. His debts were a mix of divorce settlements, unpaid child support, failed real estate projects, and overspending. Bankruptcy forced him to liquidate $645 million in assets, including 240 pairs of Jordan shoes worth $6,000, a $2,250 watch, a lion skin rug, and a large painting of a nude woman. Even his Super Bowl and Miami championship rings were gone. Before bankruptcy, Sapp earned $45,000 per month as an NFL network analyst, but that income was garnished, and the network publicly warned him after the filing became public. His lavish lifestyle and high-profile persona didn't help. Creditors swooped in, leaving Sapp scrambling. Despite this, he avoided criminal charges. The fallout was purely financial. Today, Sapp earns $150,000 annually as a graduate assistant coach for the Colorado Buffaloes, mentoring young players and rebuilding his life. On the other hand, this next NFL player went broke because of an investment in a business that failed miserably. Mark Brunell spent 19 NFL seasons as a quarterback, primarily with the Jacksonville Jaguars, earning over $50 million in career earnings. Despite his success on the field, including 3 Pro Bowls, leading Jacksonville to 4 playoff runs, and winning a Super Bowl as Drew Brees' backup, Brunell went broke due to a series of failed investments and bad financial decisions. In 2010, while still on the New York Jets roster, Brunell filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing $5.5 million in assets against $24.7 million in debts. The financial collapse stemmed mainly from real estate and business ventures heavily impacted by the 2007 housing market crash. Brunell had invested $11 million in a high-end condominium project with former teammates Joel Smeenge and Todd Fordham through a company called Champion LLC, which went under during the property bubble collapse. He also lost $9 million from 12 Whataburger franchises in the Jacksonville area, along with other smaller real estate ventures. Personal loan guarantees and overspending compounded his debt. The bankruptcy filing triggered multiple lawsuits from creditors and forced the sale of his Florida mansion for $9.5 million. Former NFL Commissioner Michael Hoygue commented that Brunell's downfall was partly due to being too trusting and taking on high-risk investments. Moving on, we have an NFL player who went broke because of a failed business venture he was truly passionate about. Deuce McAllister. Deuce McAllister was a standout running back for the New Orleans Saints, earning $70 million over an 8-season NFL career with 2 Pro Bowl selections. Despite his on-field success, including a career-high 1,641 rushing yards in 2003 and leading the Saints to multiple playoff runs, McAllister went broke due to a failed business venture. In 2009, McAllister's Nissan dealership in Jackson, Mississippi, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy after defaulting on loans. He reportedly owed owed Nissan over $6.6 million plus $300,000 in interest. The dealership's collapse led to multiple lawsuits from lenders, the loss of his home in Luling, Louisiana, and a significant drop in net worth from millions to roughly $50,000. The financial disaster followed a series of injuries that derailed his NFL earnings potential. In 2005, McAllister signed an 8-year, $50.1 million contract with the Saints, including $12.5 million in signing and option bonuses. 5 games into the deal, he tore his right ACL, returned the following year for 1,057 yards, but then tore his left ACL in 2007. The Saints cut him in 2009, a cap-saving move, and he retired shortly after. McAllister's bankruptcy stemmed not only from the failed dealership, but also from extravagant spending and mismanaged investments. Post-NFL, McAllister has worked as a color commentator for Saints Radio, a college football analyst, and as an athletic consultant at St. Martin's Episcopal School. Up next, we have an NFL player whose spending addiction ultimately led to his bankruptcy. Andre Rison. Andre Rison made over $20 million in his NFL career. 5 Pro Bowls, a Super Bowl ring, and a reputation as one of the league's flashiest wideouts. But within a few years, he lost everything. Rison spent money like the league would never end. He bought 8 Ferraris, 34 Mercedes-Benzes, 14 BMWs, and dropped over $1 million on jewelry. He partied with a 40-person entourage and blew tens of thousands on nightclubs. In 1994, his $2 million mansion burned to the ground after his then-girlfriend, Lisa Lopes, set it on fire during an argument. The chaos didn't slow him down. He kept spending, lending friends tens of thousands, and keeping his circle large. By 2007, it was over. Rison filed for bankruptcy, crushed by debt and unpaid child support. He admitted it himself. Some guys had a gambling problem. I had a spending problem. He said he'd come home from clubs and pass out with $10,000 lying on the floor. At one point, Rison owned more cars than most dealerships. When you have cash, you create debt, he said. On the other hand, this next NFL player went broke because of the 2008 financial crisis, and the reason will shock you. Dermontti Dawson. Dermontti Dawson was one of the greatest centers the NFL ever saw. A 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time AFC Lineman of the Year, and the anchor of the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line for 13 seasons. After retiring in 2001, Dawson turned his focus to real estate. He joined several business ventures, developing housing projects and shopping centers across Kentucky. For a while, it looked like the perfect second act. But when the 2008 financial crash hit, everything collapsed. Property values tanked, loans defaulted, and Dawson's investments, mostly minority stakes in real estate partnerships, left him with massive personal guarantees and zero control. By 2010, the Hall of Famer, who once earned $4.2 million a year, was drowning in nearly $70 million of debt. He filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing just $1.4 million in assets, including a Rolex, a golf cart, a baby grand piano, and even a $10 stake in his daughter's mixed-breed dog. Meanwhile, Fifth Third Bank and several Kentucky development groups were coming after him for millions in unpaid loans and judgments. He eventually left Kentucky, rebuilt his life in San Diego, and started over as a sales executive. Moving on, we have an NFL player whose 9 kids with 9 different women completely drained his bank accounts, leaving him broke. Travis Henry. Travis Henry had everything: NFL fame, millions in the bank, and a promising career as a Pro Bowl running back. But off the field, his life was chaotic. By age 30, Henry had 9 kids, with 9 different women, and the child support payments were $170,000 a year. But when the money stopped rolling in, the lawsuits started flying. Henry was making excuses, claiming he couldn't afford the payments, but judges weren't buying it. He fell behind by $1,600 and landed in jail. His $25 million contract with the Denver Broncos didn't save him either. He only saw about $6.7 million before getting cut for off-field drama and injuries. Then came the drug charges. The same man who once laughed through the NFL's rookie seminar about avoiding bad decisions was now living that exact cautionary tale. Henry admitted he made mistake after mistake, trusting women who said they were on birth control, spending recklessly on jewelry and cars, and ignoring every warning. "I was acting like somebody who never had nothing," he said. Now broke, jobless, and under fire from 9 different court orders, Henry's empire had collapsed. Up next, we have an NFL player who went so broke that he had to move back in with his parents. Chris McAllister. Chris McAllister was once one of the most feared cornerbacks in the NFL, a first-round pick, three-time Pro Bowler, and Super Bowl champion. In 2004, the Baltimore Ravens gave him a 7-year, $55 million contract with a $10 million signing bonus and another $7.5 million roster bonus. The man was rolling in money, fame, and talent, but just a few years later, that same man was broke, unemployed, and living in his parents' house. By 2011, McAllister had filed court papers admitting he had no income, no savings, and that his parents were paying for his food and housing. His exact words in court: "I have been unemployed since 2009. I live in my parents' home. My parents provide me with my basic living expenses." He was trying to lower his $11,000 a month child support payments to his ex-wife, Marlene, the same woman who had once accused him of kicking her out of his house for refusing to have an abortion. Reports claimed he'd blown through his fortune with partying, bad spending habits, and possible poor investments. He was even forced to sell his Super Bowl rings to stay afloat. On the other hand, this next NFL player made some seriously bad investment decisions that ruined his life. Luther Ellis. Luther Ellis was once the heart of the Detroit Lions defense, a two-time Pro Bowler, first-round pick, and one of the most respected players on and off the field. Between 2000 and 2004, he earned over $11.6 million. He had $1 million home, luxury cars, and a name that carried weight in Detroit. But within a few years, Ellis was bankrupt, losing both his homes and relying on church donations and friends to feed his family. The downfall started after retirement. Ellis poured his fortune into failed business ventures, real estate, a manufacturing company called Trinity Armor, and internet startups. He ignored professional advice, chasing risky investments to prove he could make more to give more. Instead, he lost nearly everything. By 2009, Ellis and his wife had filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing $138 million in assets against $4.4 million in debt. They owed over $37,000 in taxes, thousands more in tuition and credit card bills, and had just lost their Utah home to foreclosure. A $524,000 civil judgment from that foreclosure was the final blow. Their $1.6 million Michigan home was also underwater, worth only $800,000 in a collapsing market. The man who once signed autographs for fans was now asking local churches for food. "They've stepped in big time to help us," Ellis said, humbled by the support. He admitted his mistakes: greed, pride, and bad judgment. "It wasn't gambling, drugs, or women," he said. "It was me thinking I was smarter than everyone else." With 11 children to support, including 6 adopted, Ellis had no choice but to start over, this time with a lesson most players learn too late: the NFL money never lasts forever. Moving on, we have an NFL player who trusted his partners with his money so much that it ultimately led him to bankruptcy: Johnny Unitas.
Unitas keeps his touchdown record going as he hits Raymond Berry in the end zone.
Here's a guy who held a real consecutive game touchdown record.
Johnny Unitas wasn't just a quarterback. He was the face of American football. Johnny U, the Golden Arm himself, changed the game forever. 3-time MVP, 4-time champion, the man who helped make the NFL what it is today. But when the cheering stopped, the legend who built an empire on the field lost everything off it. After retiring, Unitas dove headfirst into business, and that's where the downfall began. In 1984, he and 2 partners took out a $3.5 million loan to buy an electronics company called National Circuits, Inc. It was supposed to be a smart move, a post-football success story. Instead, it collapsed. The company failed, the debt piled up, and because Unitas personally guaranteed the loan, he was left holding the bag. By 1991, the Hall of Famer was bankrupt. The bank filed liens on his home, froze his checking and savings accounts, and seized what they could. His financial empire, built over 18 seasons, was gone, and this wasn't his only failed investment. Before National Circuits, Unitas had already poured money into bowling alleys, a prime rib restaurant that shut down almost immediately, a freight company, and real estate deals that tanked. At his peak, Unitas earned up to $250,000 a year, a huge salary for his era. But none of that mattered when the debt collectors came. By the time he passed away in 2002, much of the unpaid debt had been covered by Maryland taxpayers. And finally, we have an NFL player who lost it all through failed real estate ventures: Charlie Batch. Charlie Batch, longtime backup quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, found himself in financial trouble despite a 15-season NFL career and 2 Super Bowl rings. In December 2010, Batch filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing $8.3 million in liabilities against $2.3 million in assets, primarily due to failed real estate investments through his company, Batch Development Co. West, Inc. His real estate ventures collapsed, including a default on a $115 million mortgage, which left 25 properties turned over to a receiver. Despite the staggering debts, Batch managed to protect most of his personal assets. Super Bowl rings, his home, and memorabilia were spared after bankruptcy proceedings in June 2011, with agreements reached with creditors like Primarock Real Estate Fund, who had a claim on $800,000. Attorneys worked to ensure that these irreplaceable items wouldn't be seized. Batch's financial troubles weren't from lavish personal indulgence. He invested heavily in his community, particularly Homestead, Pennsylvania, renovating buildings, running youth basketball camps, and supporting local schools. Friends and legal counsel described him as smart, grounded, and conscientious, a stark contrast to other athletes who lose fortunes through reckless spending. After bankruptcy, Batch continued his football-related career, working as a pre-game analyst for the Steelers, color commentator for preseason games, and co-hosting the Steeler post-game show. His story is a cautionary tale. Even smart, community-focused athletes can face financial collapse if investments sour, but careful planning and legal protection can help preserve what truly matters. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to NFL Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.